This might be a question that we start answering today, but it may kind of spill over into another conversation. I suspect it will. But when you kind of think about some of the themes that you and I are hearing about and addressing through the Leadership Foundry, maybe over the last year, maybe the last 24 months, what are some of the things that are at the top of the list for you that you've been just kind of thinking about, that we're hearing about? What's on that list for you?
I would say the themes that I'm hearing the most pervasive. So I'll start with three to give you some space to add in yours too. I mentioned it earlier, time management. I think that's a big one. Everyone's just gasping for air to get time. I love your concept of air in your calendar. Getting air in our calendar. People just don't do that enough. And we all know we're booked solid, like Zoom meeting or team meetings to meeting to meeting to meeting. I had one leadership team that I was asking them, so customarily, how long do you take a break? I'm about to give you a break. And they all looked at me and through their cameras and said, we don't take breaks. There's no time to even go to the restroom,
right?
Which is very unhealthy.
Welding together practical insights and powerful conversations to forge world-class leaders. This is the Leadership Foundry podcast.
So Randy, I thought today would be a great time for us to just talk about Leadership Foundry. I mean, we've been doing this work now together for several years, before just the pandemic.
Right.
And most people don't know that. And we've been gathering questions from our clients and others just to say, hey, well, tell us more about Leadership Foundry. What got you doing that? Right. So this will be a great time for us to just talk about that, share a little bit more about ourselves and our backgrounds, and we think about the work we do, why we do it. So maybe a good starting place for those that haven't gotten a chance to see you either on one of my prior podcasts or haven't been in a Leadership Foundry session with you. What was your journey that you went on before you got into Leadership Foundry, and what was that pivot that had us start working together?
Yeah, gosh, I'm really glad we're having this conversation because I get those questions too, and I think it's just time that we address everything. So my background goes back 30 years. When I graduated from the University of Georgia, went into operations leadership with a national retailer, ran operations all over Atlanta for them. Really got my business sort of foundation there, P&L management, training, leadership, all that stuff. And then I made a pivot into the talent side of business and got hired by Waffle House. And I was their vice president of people for 4 years. So I ran recruiting, training, and diversity for that $2 billion company for 4 years. And then made another segue into executive search and got hired by Bell Oaks Executive Search as their managing partner and ran that company for about 13 years. But during my time at Bell Oaks, I got really drawn to coaching. Did a lot of that work for our clients, a lot of our candidates. Had been, a trained interviewer for many years, so I was always interested in learning about people, getting to understand their backgrounds, and then eventually understanding the obstacles that stood between them and success. So eventually, I just came to a place in my mid-40s where I knew that I wanted to work just on coaching and leadership development, sold my interest in Bell Oaks, and I started serving partners at the end of 2012. And
so I had no idea that's already been over 10 years.
Yes.
Wow.
So that we're in the 10th year with Serving Partners, and I do executive coaching and leadership consulting, work very similar to you. And along the way, started writing books. I've written 8 books. Like to blog, I'm very fond of writing, so that's a passion for me. And you and I met, if you recall, almost 20 years ago. And we had hired you at Bell Oaks to do a pretty significant consulting project. And you and I hit it off, became friends. And I think it's interesting for people that are interested in Leadership Foundry to understand that our early friendship really focused on trust and shared values. We found ways to partner wherever we could. We helped each other's businesses. But then eventually you and I had a shared vision for what can we do that would be different for companies and leaders in that leadership development space. If you remember, we used to call that idea corporate university. Kind of a clunky name.
We did.
But eventually, those dinner napkin ideas became the Leadership Foundry.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, great. Right. And I remember all those conversations we used to have over lunch. And it's surprising to know that we've been friends and colleagues for 20 years before we really became business partners around that. And so if I kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, tell me about your background.
You know, started kind of a similar journey in that it's always been about leadership development and the people side of business. Yeah, for those that aren't familiar with my background, I've got some of an eclectic background. I've got a clinical therapy background and an MBA. So I always tell people that's like my version of a Reese's peanut butter cup. Somehow it kind of works. It's that chocolate and peanut butter. Both have been doing coaching as a practice since 2005. So, close to 20 years as an executive coach. And then have been kind of teaching in various universities, both Georgia State University and Emory University, in their MBA programs, executive education programs. So very, very familiar and passionate about developing leaders. But the idea of being able to do it for leaders that maybe couldn't access some of those universities or didn't have some of the resources got me really, really excited, which was the impetus for a lot of our initial conversations. And you're right, we've had conversations and had a friendship for many, many years, and then it just kind of sparked. And what most people don't know is we actually started Leadership Foundry before the pandemic.
Yes.
We were doing work with clients in a more old school fashion where it was in-person sessions. And we were really having great impact and had some great clients that we worked with around that time. And then the pandemic happened, and that really changed how we approached how we served our clients.
I think it's interesting too for people that are interested in sort of the origins of the Leadership Foundry to understand that you and I do very, very similar work. We have very similar approaches, the way we think about things. But the reason, really the business reason that we came together was certainly the friendship and the partnership was there, but we both saw the overlap that our practices had in a certain area. We knew that together we could better serve large companies, groups of high potentials, individual leaders, and we wanted to do it in a way that was separate from maybe our coaching practices. And those early dinner napkin ideas and lunches that we would have and talk about it, I think we arrived at a place where together we were better. I know that sounds like a cliche, but we figured out together we could create great synergy. And those early conversations became what we're doing today. And it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, so it makes me think of what most people don't know about the work we do is it really falls into two big buckets, which makes us a little bit different. And I'm going to ask you the same question in a minute. What you see is what's different about what we do. But one thing that's different about us is, sure, we do leadership development for cohorts of leaders. So we can take them through a full program, typically 6 months, and you and I kind of co-lead those often. We bring in other collaborators and other coaches to help us on that. But what's also unique about the work that we do is when you talk about bringing our resources together, you and I do work with teams, often executive teams, where we'll take them on a similar journey, but all focus on helping those teams develop the skills necessary to lead their organizations, lead their businesses, and function better together as kind of collaborators and team players. And I frankly couldn't have done that by myself. So to be able to kind of partner with you in those situations, I think it really allows us to bring better value and really help those teams because we've got two lenses on them, not just one.
I think that's absolutely right. And if I were to go to, I think you sort of staked out sort of phase one. I think there's a phase two, maybe another element of this. And I think the fact that we are always focused on delivering practical, actionable work for our clients, both in the content, the sessions that we do, helping them, take something meaningful back into their jobs, back into the workplace. I think the other two elements are the fact that we are really good at customization. I'm really proud of the fact that we spend a lot of time listening to clients. We do not come at anyone with an off-the-shelf solution. Our first step is we want to get to know you and listen to you. So that extreme customization is something that sets us apart. And I think that we're also, quite frankly, very affordable. So I think it's those four elements: practical, actionable, customizable, and affordable, that really make this very special. So just to take what you said one step further, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's...
I agree with you completely. And I got to give you a big shout out. So for those folks listening or watching that haven't seen our website, they should check it out. Because what makes our website so unique is it really speaks to exactly what you said.
Yes.
So it was your idea, it was your dinner napkin idea to say, hey, why don't we make this site almost like you order food online, where you can go in there and actually choose the modules you want to put into your cart. So you actually get the opportunity as a leader who's going through the site to design your own program. You go through all of our modules. We're always adding modules to the library. There's nearly 30 modules in there right now, and we're always adding more. But you can select the modules you want for your leaders. You can then select if you want to add in coaching hours. Also makes us unique. Most of these programs don't accompany the programming with coaching. Do you want an action learning project at the end? You can select that. Myers-Briggs, we have a whole host of other options you can add in. And then you can also customize at the very end with anything else we might need to know about the cohort. That generates a design plan that we get to look at and really helps us to customize a program perfect for our clients. So you're right, it's never off the shelf. It's always designed to meet the particular needs of that organization, which is fun. I mean, that's one of the things I think that makes it so exciting for us. We're always learning about the needs of our clients that we're working through.
And gosh, if we're going to go one step further, I think I would also say that even though we've been doing this now for a number of years, we also take all of the amazing experiences we have with teams and cohorts and individual senior leaders, and we're always going back in and kind of rebaking the pie. We're going back in and reconfiguring what we're doing, again, not just to customize to the individual client, but to bring you the best of what's going on out in the workplace. We're always bringing these best practices in. So you may have had a workshop with us on candor, communication, clarity, delegation 3 years ago, but it will not look the same 3 years later because we're always going back in and giving you the best of what's working. And I really value that.
I love that, Randy. Okay, so I put you on the spot. So What's an example of one of those topics that you feel like we've really made some recent changes to that is so relevant and spot on and practical for what leaders need today?
The one that comes to mind immediately is the session that we do on practical clarity, because I think you and I both felt about a year ago that this is a really hot topic. It addresses a lot of core needs in business. But what you and I think we found as we dove into that work, it was not only just a really interesting topic, it was fundamental. And you and I have been constantly refining that content because it is absolutely one of the most important sessions we do, helping a team, helping a cohort of leaders really get their head around the need to be clear, to have clear accountability, to have clear task ownership, to have the roles clearly defined. Getting all of that in a digestible way, format for people to listen and then take it back to their workplace. You and I have continued to refine that, and I think it's some of the best work we do.
Yeah. If I had to answer that, I would say
what would be
our work around time management and priorities.
Yes.
That's another one that's just been a moving target. And it's simply because people working remotely now, everyone finds themselves in more meetings.
Yes.
And more virtual meetings and no time to do work. So we revised and refined our meeting content. We revised and refined how you spend your time each week. Whether we talk about, best practices of prioritization and time management, or the 10% rules of execution, or even the concept of author versus editor that we work with teams on. Those concepts are very much tied to what leaders are facing today. And as we've seen, the workplace just keeps changing.
Yes.
And so as it changes, our content needs to change too.
Let me put you on the spot for a second.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I want you to think about, over the last couple of years, what has been, no names please, but what has been one of your favorite client experiences? When you kind of think about someone we've engaged with and think about all the way through to the end, what has been one of your favorites?
Yeah, I got it. Okay. I got it. And it's actually a moment that's been true in almost all the experiences. So at the very end of our engagements, it's very common, almost required, that we put in an action learning project.
Right.
And for those people that aren't familiar with action learning projects, you're essentially we work with the client organization to identify typically about 5 business challenges they're facing that are all tied to leadership or people. It could be around engagement, it could be around culture, it could be even around time management. And we put the leaders within the cohort into teams to solve for those problems. And what we've done to address the needs of our clients is we've created 2 different versions of that. Sometimes we do a version where we assign the projects way ahead of time. They get weeks to work on it. But we've also created a flash style where they come into the meeting for 2 hours. The first hour, they're immediately assigned a topic. They've got to brainstorm ideas. The second hour, each team reports out. And those have been so fun to watch, Randy, because not only have the client teams taken all the content that we've given them and applied it to their real business challenges, but I think my favorite quote I got this last year was a senior leader that leads operations for one of our clients. After sitting in on that first 2-hour meeting where he had his teams report out, He said, this was the best 2 hours I spent all week.
Oh, I love it.
Just hearing those ideas, seeing those teams come up with practical solutions to their problems. So you talk about how we like to give them practical solutions to solve their leadership challenges, to see them take that and then apply it to their business. That just excites me. That's like the best reward, because you see them take the work and use it that we're putting in. And to me, that's just honoring our time and honoring their time so well. So that excites me the most. Is there an answer that you would have around that?
It's interesting, and I like where you went with that, because I do think that the action learning projects are something that really sets apart the work we do. I think something else, and there's not maybe one client, there are probably several that come to mind, but something else that we do is we create really good engagement in our work. So, we make really good use of breakouts, but these are not just go and have a little discussion and come back and tell us their thoughts. We are getting them to work in these sessions. We're putting them into small groups, giving them questions to wrestle with, and then coming up with not just, the answer, but things that they can take back to work immediately. So often we are stimulating them. We're the catalyst to get them to create their own solutions. And I just think back to all the different clients we've worked with, and how at the end, when we get the comments in the chat, or they may email us directly, I love the breakouts today. You really stimulated my thinking. I got exactly what I needed to fix the blank problem. And I just think about that as a consistent theme that exists in almost every one of our client engagements. They love that it's not just you and me lecturing. In fact, you and I barely talk 40% of the time. We are getting them working on real issues, and I think our clients love it.
Yeah, and particularly the global organizations talk about building those relationships across functions and regions. And I would say it's like 2x what you said when we think about teams. Because then I think our talking goes down even more.
Yes.
I mean, now we're talking 20, 30% of the time and really getting them working on real issues they're facing. And that's exciting, because you're right, the teams come away with solutions that they're going to put in place right away, which is fantastic. Well, okay. So let's take the crystal ball out a little bit. When you think about the future of Leadership Foundry, at least right now and maybe the next year, 2 years, where would you want to see it go? What would that picture look like? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. You and I haven't rehearsed these questions, so I would just be really curious. Like when you think about the future, where would you want to see it go?
Several things popped into my head. One, I think continuing the focus on quality work and making sure it's work that you and I love. First and foremost, those are the things. I want to make sure that we are always delivering a very high quality product to the marketplace, and you and I are having fun and doing the work we love. So I think that we've been consistent with that, and I think that will continue to be the case. I think the other element is, we haven't mentioned this yet, but we actually have a team of partners, coaches, consultants that help make up the Leadership Foundry. If you happen to go to the website, which is myleadershipfoundry.com, and go to the About Us page, you're going to see a group of just some of the best coaches and consultants, some of the best people you and I know. And we are just so grateful to have the opportunity to partner with them. So I think seeing that group grow, seeing other people continue to come in and add value to the Leadership Foundry offering, I think that's where I want to see us go. High quality work you and I love, but also continuing to give opportunities for these great coaches and consultants to partner with us to deliver a great product to the client. How about you? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I would say something very similar. I would say just continue on the path of constant evolution to meet the needs of the leadership teams we're working with, and then the whole organization and group of leaders that we're working with. And as the new normal continues to take shape, I know those needs are going to change, and how we can continue to evolve both in our offerings, but also our approach. And then, as you mentioned, the collaborators. I mean, you and I love the work we do. We love the value and perspective that we bring, but we're also very aware. We are two voices, and to really serve the clients, we need a whole orchestra of voices, a whole choir of voices. And so getting those right collaborators that can come in and help us. And you're right, we've got such a great group of not only skilled professionals and leaders, but people. And more of those to help us grow, I think is fantastic, and help us serve as many leaders and teams that we can.
Right.
So, often people ask this question, well, who is your ideal client? They've asked me that question before. So, I'm sure people are listening to this right now thinking, gosh, well, would I be a fit for Leadership Foundry? And frankly, some clients are great fits and some clients maybe are not as good fits.
Sure.
So when you think about a good fit, what makes a good fit?
Because we work in multiple places and do different things, I would say, it kind of starts with, are you a leader of a team, of an organization, a division of a company, whatever it is, whatever your role is? Are you thinking right now that I am serious about making an investment in my team and my people? Am I at a place where I am ready to help my team go to the next level? Because that is where it starts. The leader of the organization has to be serious about developing their team. Because I think you and I would both agree, someone that's looking to check a box, hey, we just need to do a little training this year, or we need to get this done because we're being forced to do it, that's not really a good fit for us. So I think those leaders that start with, I care about development and I want to make that investment in my people, that's where it starts. So I think that making sure that we've got that, but I think also someone that's looking to enter into a partnership. You and I do best when we are sitting down and having numerous conversations, really understanding the leader and the company they work for, or leaders, really getting deep into what makes you tick. Tell us about your culture. What's missing? What do you guys want to work on that you're not doing well? Where are you succeeding? Where are you having success? We get into all of that. And I think because we spend so much time on the front end with these leaders who care, that makes a successful Leadership Foundry engagement. Now, that's my take. What's your thought on that?
I would agree. You use the word partnership. I think that's absolutely true. I don't like the word vendor, and I wouldn't want a client that's looking for a vendor.
Correct.
Who's going to do a one-time training. We really care about the companies and leaders we work with, and we really want to work with them over a period of time. And now that doesn't always mean it's going to be the same volume of leaders, but we want to really make impact. And sometimes it takes some time to do that. So having engagements that, of course, can be a year, but can extend and have a client that wants to potentially partner and have us help them grow their leaders and equip them over a period of time is a great fit for us. I'd also say we can scale up and scale down. So we worked with leadership teams of 10 people. We've worked with organizations where we served a cohort of 150 people or a group of leaders in multiple cohorts. So we can achieve a large value and impact. We can also do it with a small team. So scale is less of an issue for us as much as it is the right fit. And I think that really matters.
I think one of the things that's at the heart of the word partnership is, are you always looking for different ways to come together and collaborate? That's another aspect of thinking about partnership. And one of the things I'm very proud of is, as you and I are in our 4th or 5th year with the Leadership Foundry, we've now got clients, big clients, that are signing up for multiple year engagements. And every year the engagements are a little different. We're working with clients now in 3rd and 4th year projects. And what that really tells us, and I think maybe tells our listeners, that people don't look at us as the training program. We're not just the one-off. We are always going to find ways to engage with the Leadership Foundry, and we want to, guys, surprise us. Tell us what we can do that's different. What else do you have in the arsenal to show us? They come to us with their needs and they say, can you create something for us? But I think that ongoing partnership that, to use your word, keeps evolving is really exciting.
I agree with you completely. And what is fun for us is to see that we've started at frontline leaders and then immediately had the executive team say, I want to now do something with you.
Yes.
We've also started with the executive teams and then say, we want you to push that down and do work with our mid-level leaders or even frontline leaders. So we've kind of gone up and down, which I think is exactly what we're looking for. So if you're a leader and you're looking for solving for leadership development in your organization, maybe you're hungry for it. Maybe you haven't been investing in it in a couple of years. We would love to speak with you. But if you're looking for kind of a one-off, one-time event, we may or may not be the right fit for you. That sounds more like a one-time training. But we love those partnerships because it allows us to also learn and grow with those organizations.
I don't know if you agree with this, but I think one of the things that we also do that's innovative and really, really helpful for our clients is sometimes the client isn't exactly sure what they need, and that's okay. I think I need some help. I think I'd like to work with you, but I don't exactly know what my needs are. And you and I have a very innovative approach to it. We call it the gap interview, where you and I we've talked earlier about getting to know our clients. We'll actually have a process of going in and interviewing every stakeholder, all the members of the leadership team, stakeholders for maybe a bigger project with a cohort. But we are going to go in and interview and then share with them in an anonymous way this is the feedback that you gave us. You guys have already identified through these interviews all the areas where we could help you. And then we go back to the word customize. You and I will then customize the solutions they need based on the gap interview feedback. I think that really sets us apart. What's your take?
I agree completely, 100%. And I think that customized part is really key, because we really want to help, again, bring practical solutions. So we need to understand where the business is. So Randy, when you think about anything that you're working on in 2022 for Leadership Foundry, any kind of book or concept or module, what's some of the stuff going on in your workshop?
I'm working on some content for us around the concept of curiosity. I love curiosity, as do you. And it's I actually had a chapter in my most recent book, a book titled Essential Wisdom for Leaders of Every Generation, that you and I use with our clients, just like we use Hot Sauce Principle, your last book. But in that chapter, I talk about the critical need to cultivate curiosity as a skill set. And I'm going to bring some of that content into the Leadership Foundry. So I'm actively involved in building out that content. I think you and I have done some groundbreaking work around empowerment. And I want to do a little bit more work this year to create content, maybe a series of sessions on empowerment for our clients. I'm also working on a new book titled Upon Reflection, and it's about the need for leaders to be able to look back and recognize their successes, failures, lessons learned, and be able to learn from that and then act differently. And then you and I are talking about a book that we want to write together, and we need to carve out time in the end of the year to do that. That's a project we need to get done.
Yeah, I'm excited. I didn't know all those things were on your plate. So that's exciting. I'm excited to see all those. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
How about you? What's on your list?
So two things come to mind. So first, I've been on this journey of writing my second book right now and finishing that one up.
Yes.
And that's author versus editor. Those that have gone through Leadership Foundry or have been coaching clients of mine know that we really preach that concept. It's such an important, empowering concept.
That's a game changer.
It really helps leaders get from working in the business to on the business. So I'm excited for that book to come out. That should be coming out sometime April, maybe May. But that book's in my workshop. And then this year we launched the Leadership Foundry podcast. So more episodes and shows where we can put out content, interviews with our clients, interviews with other leaders, experts, to really provide those practical tools and tips. So one more resource that we can provide both current members of the Leadership Foundry cohort, so clients, but also alums of the program. They can listen to it and get that content. And if you're neither a current client or an alum, you can download those episodes right now and learn from leaders. So just being able to put out content in other ways to provide real-time examples of what leadership looks like right now is exciting for me. So those two are on my plate, but now I've got to add the book that we're going to write together at the end of the year.
I think that's something that, maybe a lot of people that follow the Foundry or may know us may not really fully realize is how much time you and I invest in creating content. For us, it probably starts out maybe as a podcast or an article or something, but we're always out there trying to stay on the leading edge of what's relevant for our clients. And a lot of times that creativity, that podcast, that blog post turns into maybe a book or a PowerPoint presentation or a talk that we give. But you and I are always thinking about how do we create something relevant and new for our clients. So I think that's another sort of secret sauce piece of the recipe that we're proud of.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to something you said earlier. We're able to do that because we spend so much time listening to our clients.
Yes.
Not just in the upfront gap interviews, which we do, but it's all the time we put in breakouts and have them talk about the issues, and then we start to see patterns or hear patterns.
Yes.
So when I think about the empowerment content, well, that came straight from a client leadership team that we were working with.
Yes.
And they really wanted to work on making empowerment a real game changer in their culture. And so you went to the workshop and said, how can I help them move the ball on that? And created some really masterful content around empowerment and accountability that allowed them to change their culture. But had we not heard that need, it wouldn't have sparked that for us.
And what's interesting about that is we started asking questions around empowerment of our other clients. And guess what? Almost all of them needed the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, everyone always thinks that their problems are so unique.
You and I know better.
There's some things might be somewhat unique, but there are so many pervasive issues that businesses face today because it's today, and getting an opportunity to solve for those is exciting.
This might be a question that we start answering today, but it may kind of spill over into another conversation. I suspect it will. But when you kind of think about some of the themes that you and I are hearing about and addressing through the Leadership Foundry, maybe over the last year, maybe the last 24 months, what are some of the things that are at the top of the list for you that you've been, just kind of thinking about that we're hearing about? What's on that list for you?
I would say the themes that I'm hearing the most pervasive. So I'll start with three to give you some space to add in yours too. I mentioned it earlier, time management. I think that's a big one. Everyone's just gasping for air to get time. I love your concept of air in your calendar, getting air in our calendar. People just don't do that enough. And we all know we're booked solid, like Zoom meeting or team meetings to meeting to meeting to meeting. I had one leadership team that I was asking them, so customarily, how long do you take a break? I'm about to give you a break. And they all looked at me through their cameras and said, we don't take breaks. There's no time to even go to the restroom,
right?
Which is very unhealthy. So time management, I think, is definitely one. And of course, the meeting culture is part of that. I think that's one. I would say the other one that I would add in is coming from my book that I released in 2020, which was The Hot Sauce Principle, how to live and lead in a world where everything's urgent all the time. I think urgency is still an issue. People feel the sense of everything's urgent all the time, which is just creating more chaos and confusion. And then the third one I'd offer is just that general operating more on the business rather than in the business. Most people, because time is an issue, because of urgency, it's drawing everyone into firefighter mode. And so most leaders really aren't operating as leaders, if we were to be gut level honest with them. And they would say it too. They're sitting in two seats of their direct reports that are empty, or they're doing work for their team. They're doing work that isn't really the work that they really want to be doing. They're not really able to think about vision or think about the future or plan because they're so busy firefighting. So trying to help them solve for that is exciting. Any themes that you've noticed or seen?
Yeah, I'm going to start out with one that I'm going to piggyback on something you said. I definitely agree with time management. And if we drill down into that, I think about something that you and I have shared with our clients around time is a resource to manage. And are we managing it well? And I think about specifically self-care. You and I are not there just to tell our clients how these are best practices for managing your business day better. We're trying to help them manage their lives better. We're trying to give them insight into practicing that self-care. Let's focus on being great business leaders, but let's focus on being good human beings and taking care of ourselves, our families, our communities, people around us. So I think we've really focused in on, with the help of our client feedback, on helping them get better at self-care. So just a dimension of time management that I think we've really helped our clients with. I think another, it's a personal favorite of mine, is the subject of candor. You and I know that the lack of candor is pervasive. It exists everywhere.
Absolutely.
And it exists in various ways. In some cultures, we see it come across as overly aggressive, even bullying behavior. And some, it's a very passive-aggressive sort of, we call it blank nice around here. A lot of companies have that description. So I think our ability to listen to that, refine our teaching on that and coaching on it, and deliver really helpful content to help leaders and teams be better at candor, I think that's been a real success for us. But the third, and it's probably my favorite, is all the work that we've been doing based on clarity. And I think we have listened carefully to, and you've given some keywords in what you just said, the ambiguity of such and such, the lack of accountability, or we're not really clear about what we're supposed to do, and we don't really manage our deadlines well. You can name a litany of things, and it all comes back to lack of clarity. And I think us listening to those issues, refining the issue, and then really kind of, for many clients, introducing the word clarity and how it's so impactful. I think us listening to that, refining it, and delivering a really good product has helped our clients. So for me, it's that aspect of time management. It's candor and clarity. Those are the themes that just really have been coming at me in a pretty resounding fashion.
Amen. Amen. Well, Randy, we've talked a lot about Leadership Foundry today. Is there anything you can think of that we haven't talked about today?
No, I think that this is a journey, and it's a journey that you and I have been on for 2 decades. It's going to continue to grow. We're excited about it. We love the partners that have been collaborating with the Foundry, and we hope to continue to grow that group of phenomenal people. But no, I think we're just in a really good place where we're going to keep doing work we love that's high quality. I think this is just the beginning. I think we have a long road ahead of us, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think if anyone's listening to this and interested in learning more, I mean, they're welcome to reach out to you or to me. They can go to myleadershipfoundry.com, and there's links for both contacting us directly or even completing the program builder, and just to start a conversation. We're happy to engage that with really anyone, talk about their leadership needs and how we might be able to help if we're the right fit.
And I'm glad you said that. You mentioned it earlier, but I really want to stress the program builder is the beginning of a conversation. It doesn't cost anything. All we ask you to do is to, based on what you know about your organization now or your team, just go in and answer the questions and start to build the beginning of what you think the program is. And all that does is it's a catalyst for a conversation with you and me. And then we want to talk to you about what you've selected, ask you questions about your needs, but eventually arrive at that customized solution. So if you want to start the conversation, go check out the program builder on our website, and it's a phenomenal place to get going.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Randy, great conversation. I guess we've got some work to do.
I'm excited about it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.